be shown.
So good. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Firsties. Before we get started, as I always say, please make sure you subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. Another thing is what really helps me out is leaving a rating. That really helps me out with the algorithm. So please make sure to do that. And lastly, thanks again for all the support and love, and also all the funny comments as well. It's been a lot of fun. So today, as you can see from the title, I also have my favorite, or one of my favorite cousins.
Be honest, girl.
My favorite cousin's here, Ruthie. Ruth is here. So today we're going to be going over code switching. And this is actually an idea of my girl here. So I actually reached out to her. I was like, hey, girl, you need to come on my podcast. And she was like, say less.
I was so excited. Miriam
just texted me, said, let me know when you're done filming. And so one of the major, you actually had like 5 great ideas. And I was like, she's probably going to be the producer of the podcast, guys.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. One of the ones that really stuck out to me was code switching, because I'm very familiar with that, and a lot of first gens are. So before we get started, I do want to read the definition of what I found is the definition of code switching here. If I could find it. Where is it?
Just had it up.
Okay, here. It refers to the practice of alternating between 2 or more languages or cultural norms in conversations or communication. It can also involve switching not only between languages, but also between dialects, registers, or even nonverbal cues, depending on the context. So I feel as though, as a first-gen citizen, that's all we do.
That is literally all we do.
Is code switching.
Yeah.
In my experience, it's so I could reach maximum like advantage in whatever context I'm in. Mm-hmm. And then earlier, before we actually had like an hour, this recording was supposed to have an hour ago, but we end up just talking
off camera.
Can't go into detail about what we're talking about, but it's so good, and we have so much more to talk about. But no, the reason why we were talking about this also is I mentioned prior to recording this that, oh my God, like I kind of had an aha moment that I think the reason why I just felt so comfortable around our cousins and why I'm having a lot of my cousins on is because code switching is not a thing around our cousins, because they have the same shared experience, which is trying to connect the 2 worlds together between being an American, but also being a child of immigrant parents. So what is your experience with code switching?
So
I feel like you do it very well.
I found out recently that I do it very well. I didn't know that I was code switching for the longest time, right? So it definitely started off in elementary school. And I was just telling you that like when I was younger, we would have like substitute teachers in elementary school who were Ethiopian. And
I've never had.
Oh, I have Arlington County weird. For you. And I would I guess start speaking in an accent, like a thick Habesha accent, when I was talking to these people, and it was in English though. And I had a friend come up to me and she was like, why do you talk like that? And I was like what?
Like what's happening?
Yeah. I was like what? And let's say, like, to give you an example, I'd be like, come give me the chair. And she'd be like, why'd you say that? I'm like, I said what? And keep in mind, I'm in elementary school. So I'm like, I said what? And she asked me, she's like, you're like changing up your accent. And it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing it unconsciously. And I'm like, matching whatever accent I'm hearing, which one is offensive, and 2, I was a kid, so I didn't know what I was doing, but like it was like me subconsciously trying to make sure that they understood me. And now as I've gotten older, I think it would categorize as code switching, but I'm very obsessed with like making sure that people feel understood and heard. So when someone is talking to me, and I speak with a lot of immigrants from all over the world, like from wherever, and I feel like it's because we're immigrant children that I have this like talent where we will not know the same language. We might not, speak the same language, speak in the same like tone, whatever the case may be, but somehow I make them feel heard or understood. And I've been told this by people and their families. And I think it's because I do these slight changes, like when I'm talking to someone, where I'll start enunciating my words really carefully when I'm talking to an immigrant parent.
Got it.
And it's because I know that like my parents speak really formal English, which is what they were taught in school, whereas we kind of slur our words and talk in slang. And so
slang, yeah.
when like if we're out in public as a group, like my friends will always put me up front to talk to somebody and explain something to somebody like a foreigner, and it's because my English will be very slowed down. One, I'm going to use terms that I know that everybody's familiar with. I'm not going to just pull stuff out of my ass.
Okay.
And two, I'm going to speak slower. I'm going to enunciate my words. I'm not going to use slang that I know that they wouldn't understand. And so I realized I do these things unconsciously because I did it with my parents.
Yeah.
And I did that for them at like parent-teacher conferences in school.
Yeah. Oh
and so I speak slow down and I enunciate and I make sure I use very general terms and not something that I know they have never heard of.
Right.
It's a consideration thing. So I think that's like my code switching really comes in there.
I found code switching happens, and I know you, sometimes in the rooms that we're in, we're the only one that looks like ourselves sometimes.
Real.
Whether it's like the graduation class or like the on roll or whatever it is. And so I found it was just easier to fit in than rather to like stand out or anything like that. And I also found I've recently stopped doing this is I would just let people like call me whatever, like Salami, my name is Salome, but call me Salami or what. I never corrected them and like took that power back.
First of all, Salome is not that hard. So these people are so insane.
I mean, my substitute teachers struggled with that
that's
one.
ridiculous.
So I go by a complete different name. It's just me, like it's Mila.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Like it isn't.
It sounds just how it's spelled. It sounds just how it's spelled.
I know,
out.
but I've gotten Salami and Salome so many times. I'm like, yeah, it's that. It's whatever. And part of that is because I'd rather connect with someone rather than like trying to explain or like it's
that's
exhausting.
real. Especially when you're younger, that's so real.
Because it becomes our issue.
Yeah.
And it isn't though.
It's
like, no, you figure out how to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just, and it can be really, really exhausting because then you feel like the other rather than like being a part of the group. And you know, at a young age, like all you care about is your friends.
Yeah.
All you care about is fitting in.
Yeah.
You do not want to stand out in whatever way possible. Like,
and our names alone just make us stand out. So
last names is already a headache.
Oh
as
my
well.
God.
Like it's just,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And it shouldn't be like
And
that's
it
our
really
heritage.
shouldn't.
That's our dad's name. You know what I mean? But when you grew up in a predominantly majority like culture, even though there's a lot of minorities near me, or the standard is American because we grew up in America, it's just, it can be tough sometimes. And for a long time, I actually prided myself, even sometimes now I lend myself in my work where code switching, like it lends really nicely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, if you can't beat them, join them. So
right,
at this
absolutely.
point,
and again, people point that out to me now, like as a 22-year-old, I don't notice I'm doing it. I swear on everything, I don't know I'm doing it.
It's so automatic.
Until somebody's like, comes up to me and they'll be like, my friends will be out somewhere, whatever. Someone's confused, comes up to ask me a question. I help them out. I turn around, my friends are giggling. And I'm like, what? They're like, Ruth, please. Like, please be for real. And I'm like, what? They're like, you turned into Sally in a second. And I'm like, I didn't know I did that. Like,
oh my God, we all have that white girl voice.
I'm like, I don't pull my white girl voice out of I'm just speaking to whoever in a way that I think they're going to understand me. I don't know why, but like, I don't notice. I just kind of match people's communication style, if that makes sense.
Do you think the people who are exposed to our code switching know that we're code switching? Or do you think they're like, oh,
absolutely.
Oh.
Because they're the ones who call it out. It's all my immigrant friends who code switch themselves who call this out. Because it's like, I'm not seeing it in myself, and I'm sure they don't see it in themselves.
But you're not code switching to your immigrant friends.
Absolutely not.
So I'm
What do you mean? No.
They're like, babes.
No, exactly. They're like, we know you. Like, stop.
Girl.
We know you.
Yeah. No, I'm saying like, okay, you're a white counterpart that you are code switching with.
Yeah.
Have they ever called it out? No, they haven't.
No, they haven't. But it's also because like
they don't even know
they
what's
literally don't
happening.
know the alternative. Like they don't know the other side of
Ruthie
me.
is one of us.
Yeah, right. They're like, like, and that's another reason. I swear, that's another reason why I feel like everybody feels comfortable around me. Like I'll meet people, and I'm like, it's really bizarre. And my friends agree that like people who I've met once will like feel like we're the closest, ever. And I'm like, it's me. It's because I'm matching you. You're not understanding what I'm doing. Like, we're not as close as you think we are. I just have this problem. I match people's energies
I'm just
too
people
much.
pleasing.
I am. I'm a true.
Yeah.
And that comes with it. And like, I didn't realize until we went to Maui, me, Madam, the girls, whatever, our sophomore year of college. And you guys, we were the only Black people.
Oh my God.
The only Black people on that island.
The bougiest part of this.
Of Maui. We did not realize what we were getting into, but we were the only Black people. And I will never forget getting on the beach. And, it's just all older white people, not even really families, not even kids really. And it's just us, these 4 Black girls. And Hermela, which is my roommate, comes down and she's like, Nick, I said do this. And I like turned around and I was like, Hermela. We laugh about this so much. We laugh about this so much. And she was like, what is your deal? I'm like, not here. She was like, what is that supposed to mean? I'm like, I don't know, but just not here, bro. Like, just not here. And she was like, Ruth, what is your problem? We argued about it for a while on the beach. And I was like,
I'm dead.
We are the only black people. Who are we talking to? Like, we're not amongst our people, bro. Like, we could just call each other names. It's okay.
The room.
Yeah.
It's giving get out.
It's giving. And I was like, this is just not the place. And that's when it hit me that I'm like, damn, I really do that. Like, I do it on a serious level. Like, on a seriously unconscious level. I don't even know
that I'm doing it.
Yeah, I don't even know I'm doing it. But
because the alternative of that, I've met someone where they're so proud of their heritage, whether it's like Hispanic, Indian, whatever. Yeah. And they're basically the same person in every room. And I'm like, damn, like, I want to be like that. Me too. You know what I mean? Where when you meet her, you know, oh, she's an Hispanic woman. She's proud about it, and she makes it in a way where it's cool because you feel like you're the other when you're younger. The standard is always the cool people or whatever. Yeah. And like growing up, Ethiopian people weren't cool, and my white ass
they weren't cool anywhere in the world. Let's be so real.
Yeah.
That's now. This fetishization, this whole but East African thing is now.
Even the intention, it's not even us. It's like. It's either our hair or ass or something.
It is.
Like,
it's definitely not our culture.
Yeah.
But like even then, like none of that, no one paid us any mind. I promise you, us and me and my Bengali friends were in the same boat. Like we were equally getting bullied together. Like we were not getting any type of special attention. No one was praising us. Girl, I was bringing daboko as a snack to school and I got fired for it. So please.
That is crazy.
I went through it for that. So I'm like, I don't want to hear anything about anything now.
Like your parents set you up.
They set me up.
Your brother didn't say anything.
No, it was for snack time. People were bringing goldfish and I'm like,
which honestly, but that is our version of goldfish.
It is.
Let's keep it real.
Oh, I brought it for a reason. I liked it. You're not going to make me stop. But it's like, I know, you know exactly how I do it. So it's like, I know the vibes.
I'm dead. I'm actually screaming, crying, dying. Like, okay. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was terrible. So I really don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I wasn't good at code switching, but I am.
Yeah, I think we all are. I think it's built into us.
It's just a skill that you learn at. But we learned it at a very, very young age. Do you remember growing up when you felt, if someone pointed out something specific, where you're like, oh, I'm different? Because as kids, you're just a kid.
So many times. Oh my God, there were so many times.
Because that's part of the reason why we have code switching is because we're like trying to connect with whomever.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like who we are. But then at one point in our lives, some dumb kid says something like, and then you're like, oh, yeah, I do have curly hair and everyone has straight hair. Like what?
Said, oh, like it was so sad. Like, oh shit. There's many times I need you to go first just so I can like gather my thoughts. But there was, especially in elementary school, I feel like it happened so often. And you were like, oh, damn. And again, when you're a kid, and one thing I love about kids, like, you don't know that you're different. You don't know that anything's off until someone points it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to keep
it doesn't hit you. And I think that
like the playground is a dangerous place.
It is. It really is. I think the one time I remember thinking like, it's not that I guess it showed me like I was different, but that I wasn't grouped in with the African Americans at my school was when I straightened my hair.
That's a whole thing.
When I straightened my hair for the first time in second grade. And I'll never forget, I went to school and my hair was like silk, because, you know, I got it done by yours truly. But
she was pressed.
Yeah, she was pressed, girl. It was a silk press. And I show up to school and everybody's touching my hair and everybody's like playing with it at lunch. And they were like, this is a wig, this is a wig. And there was one other Habesha girl in my grade. And I remember being like, tell them, like, this is not a wig. Girl, show up for me and let them know. Like, I was like, no. And again, I'm in second grade and they're like, this is not real hair. It's not real hair. Whatever. I get to the playground. It's like the talk of the day. Everyone being like, what the hell? Like, your hair. And then I remember asking one of my friends on the slide because she kept touching it. I was like, why does everybody keep saying that? Like, you saw my hair.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I have braids in. Usually, like, you know what my hair looks like. It's just straight. What's the big deal? And she was like, no, but like usually black girls' hair doesn't look like that. And she didn't mean it any type of way, but I just remember hearing like, and I was like, what? And that's the first time I was like, you don't like, they never viewed, even though I am black, they never viewed me as black. They viewed me as an ethnic other.
An ethnic other. That should be the name of this podcast.
Actually, an ethnic other. That's so real. That's what I felt. And that was the first time I like realized that distinction that other people were making. And I was like, oh shit. Wow.
Damn. Now I was trying to think of mine. The only thing that really comes to mind is when I was younger, the one thing I got bullied for was the size of my teeth. Like, I had to catch up to the size of my teeth.
What? Mila, like, you always say this, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
I know. I remember I got braces, and I
do what it do.
I
remember you as a kid though. Like,
girl, it just wasn't cute. It's okay.
It
you
was
love me,
cute,
so
but you get what
I
I'm
would
saying?
input a photo, but I'm not gonna do that to
But
myself.
do you
on
get
the
what I'm
internet.
saying? It's like it's one person's like perception
that
of
happened
you.
to me. That happened to me 20 years ago, whenever it was. And yeah, but it wasn't that, oh, I have big teeth, so then I'm a loser. It was that when someone said I look different in that way, I then started comparing what other shit was different. And I was like, oh, my nose is this size. My hair is curly. Like, I bring this type of food to school. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, my friend Annie has like 10 different pairs of shoes, and I only have the 2 that I switch off with. You know what I mean? Like that type of stuff
You never notice. I mean,
and then you just feel less, and then it leads to, then you get into your teen years and then your adult years, and it just internalizes if you don't really fix it ahead of time, of like you just don't feel like you're good enough.
Do you know what the sickest part of all that is? Is that I felt less than for having more, if that makes sense. Like in terms of like what we bring for like lunch, let's say, right? And we'd go on field trips. And my mom, to this day, like her love language is food. She cooks me 3 meals a day, like by force. Like she loves cooking for her family. And I remember she would make me lasagna. And I, like, to this day, she does the same thing, but like she made me lasagna for a school field trip, and she came with me on the trip. And I will never forget being like, oh, you're doing too much. Like, you're being dramatic. Like, this is so embassing. Like, it's like, it's
not
same
Thanksgiving.
It's not Thanksgiving. And it's like when they make you wear a jacket, you'd be like, you're doing entirely too much. This is so embarrassing. Like, it was the same concept. Yeah. And I will never forget, it's my classmates had Lunchables. Literally 3 pieces of ham, a cracker, and cheese. Are you joking? And now,
but those ate. Sometimes.
No, I still eat Lunchables. They eat always. But I'm saying, like,
that's crazy. That's a snack. Yeah, that's a snack. That's a snack.
And I was like, your mom's.
That's a struggle meal in college. But that's a snack.
Right, and it's like your moms were busy. They just sent you off with this. My mom took the time to cook a whole meal for me, a hot lunch,
from
pack
scratch.
it, right? And I'm sitting here like stressed, and I'm like,
damn, that's
you're
really
doing
good
too
perspective.
much. And I'm like, that's so crazy. Like, I felt somehow I was made to feel like, you know, like I'm the odd one out, when in reality, like, everybody else needs to be stepping it up, because what the hell is a Lunchable for lunch?
Right. That's such great perspective at a young age, because you were focused on what you did have rather than you didn't.
And I would feel bad.
Now looking back, I'm like, like, same. My mom made, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No, I definitely knew what I had.
Like, before, like, games and stuff, like dropping food off or whatever, and it's like a full thing.
Yeah.
And they're like getting Subway or something.
God, it was so embarrassing.
Like, yeah, but the cooler people got food to then go get food to get Subway or Chipotle. Yeah. But then my mom would drop off like last night's rice and beans or whatever.
And I'm like, this is just not. It's not helping.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I don't know if you did birthday parties in your classroom, but my mom would come, and I would be so excited, because there's pictures and everything. Like, you know me, I was very like close with all my teachers. Like, I love having birthday parties at school, but she would come with a cake from Dama, like a Habesha cake. I'm not kidding. I died inside. But I literally died inside.
But now we would fuck a bitch
up
for a Dama cake right now.
Tiramisu girl. I'm
But you just want the Sunday fun day with ice cream.
Go to Giant and grab one.
Like, yeah.
What are you talking about right now? She brought a fruitcake. And I remember my brother came to my classroom.
Not even tiramisu.
I was sick. He looked at me and I was like, I'm so sick. I'm so sick. I was like, no one's going to get it.
Oh my God.
And it wasn't. And the crazy part is, even at that age, you understand, like, I was fully aware that I appreciated this cake. I was happy. I was going to eat it.
That you have that emotional intelligence at that age.
I was just nervous about the way the rest of my classmates were going to perceive that. They're going to be like, who is she? She's
really
crazy. She's weird.
You're really speaking it right now.
Like, and it's like, and it's part of it. It was also a protective thing. I want to make note of that. Like, I didn't want people looking at my family or my parents crazy. That was like a huge trigger for me. Like, if someone, you know, if your parents are speaking in an accent, someone's like, what'd you say? I don't understand you. Oh, it's up now, because now I'm here. Now it's really up.
Yeah,
like nothing triggers
you got
me.
Me. Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, like excuse me, come again. You know, you hear her. Like, you know, you hear her. Like, let's be so serious. So part of it was that, like, I was me being not wanting, you know,
you're protecting
everybody.
Your parents.
To look at my parents, like, what kind of cake
Sideways.
do they not know? Like, what a cake is. Like, what is this? Like, you know, and people were very judgy. I think people forget what 2007 was like. Like, please. It was not accepted. It was not accepted.
It was rough.
It was rough. Like, it was not
still
accepted.
Rough. Yeah.
So, like, bringing stuff like this was seriously, like, I was nervous. Like, I'm not trying to be dramatic.
No, girl, nervous. If I don't laugh, I'm going to cry. So just
actually.
Literally, yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, no, even still now, it's really tough to try to I told the story the other day when I was talking to a guy at a bar, and then he tried to connect with me when me and Mary did our New York trip, and was like, oh, you're Ethiopian. And I could see it's not intentional, but he was trying to connect. And so he's like, you guys are runners, right? And like, that's the first thing you say. Also, I'm not a spokesperson for literally every Ethiopian person on the map. And it's like, he's trying to connect. And I'm like, but I'm at an age where I'm like, no. Before I would be like, yeah, great job for knowing that. And then try to connect. And then at that point, I'm trying to prove something. And then I'm like, do I even like this guy to even buy? You know what I mean? Like, it's different now. But at that age, like, I even look back at like who I would spend time on the playground. I'm like, why did I hang out with that girl? Like, she was not nice to me. Yeah. But I wanted to be so cool, or just to be in the...
It's an acceptance thing.
It really is.
It literally is. And I feel like, I mean, for any kid at any age, of any ethnic background, I think acceptance is a huge, like, part of your experience. But more so for children of immigrants. Like, we really, it's not even, we needed to be accepted in order to have, like, a decent school life.
And I was talking to one of my friends who's Indian, and she's going to come on to the podcast soon, but she was sharing, and I had to think about this. She was saying, I was like, why do you think our social lives, besides being just a kid and that you care about your social life, why school was so important for, like, immigrants? Because a lot of my friends who are immigrants, who come from immigrant parents, talk about this. And she was like, oh, it was because, like, some people, school was their safe space, not home.
It was.
And I'm like, literally was like bawling, crying. I'm like, so it was so important to make sure that you had an enjoyable time at school, because that was your only time to, like, whatever it was, whether your family was going through something, or it's just more fun at school, like, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, everyone has their own home life. But I was just like, because she was expressing, and I connected. She's like, when you went home, you weren't getting the attention that you were getting, and it was very much like, did you do your homework? Did you do whatever? Yeah. It wasn't this very vibrant place like school can be, or whatever. Or it didn't have the things that I cared about. Meaning, like, when you're in high school, you care about, like, homecoming court and like, your friends and, like, who did this or who did that. And I can't go home and you think what is gonna let me kiki with her like, about, like, girl, guess who kissed who in the hallway? Like,
I mean, now, like, you know, they're for all the tea.
Oh yeah.
But back then, no.
Like, that
not
is,
a chance.
that had to be developed. That has to be developed.
Yeah.
That had to be developed.
Has to be trained.
Like, literally. Now we kiki.
Yeah.
Literally, she's on the podcast, we kiki. But you think I'd go to her when we were young? Like, heck no. So that's the only time to, like, you know what I mean?
I mean, we could have tried, but, like, the reality is, at the end of that conversation, it would have been like, so this is what you're doing, instead of, you know, practicing your math, and your
then
science,
you feel bad.
your college apps, your whatever, like, you're not doing, you know, the right shit with your time. It just would have been, like, it would have been turmoil.
It would have been. And now that was really like oh my God, like, it wasn't like we wanted to. That was like a necessity to, like, because we had to look forward to something. Hi guys, this portion of the video is sponsored by Good American. My friends at Good American were so sweet to send me some packages, and I want to show you what I got. I got this really cute, just classic shirt here, which I absolutely love. That I could just dress up. I'm really excited to dress it up or dress it down. And I also got one of their most popular jeans that I'm super excited to show you guys. Give me 1 second. Okay, and now here are their jeans that I absolutely love. I mean, it's just so flattering. My problem area with denim is that there's always this awkward, like, tail back here. This one is very kind of tailored to my shape, which I absolutely love. They're stretchy. I'm absolutely obsessed. So guys, go get all of your denim needs at Good American. Thanks so much to Good American for sponsoring this video.
That there are some kids who, like, school is their life, and, like, it's, you know, they're, like, their family's life and XYZ. And it happened with a lot of my Southeast Asian friends, where, like, you know, math, science, like, getting into the top high schools, top universities was such, like, a big deal. Right. And it was because they couldn't find acceptance at school socially, but the one thing they had was their studies, and their parents drilled that into their head, where it was like, screw trying to get these Americans to accept you and understand you. Math is the same in every country. Facts are the same in every country. History is the same. Science is the same. Get that shit down, and they're not going to care where you're from. And it was like, that was a legit thing. And I remember thinking, like, part of me, I was jealous, because I was like, wow, like, no wonder, you know, you have straight A's, and, you know, you're so laser focused. Whereas me, like, yeah, I cared about school, but I also cared about my social life. And I also cared about, you know, like, doing sports, and I cared about, I was a holistic person. Whereas they were just, like, laser focused on one thing. They did not care what they were wearing to school. They did not care if they didn't have friends. They didn't care about anything. And it was because their parents had drilled into them, like, we don't care about acceptance in this family. We care about, like, beating everybody else. And so it was because instead of trying to find acceptance where they knew they wouldn't get it, it was like, I'm just going to play the game and win.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to know my name regardless type thing.
Because, which I agree with looking back. I'd rather, because that's.
As a parent, that's exactly what I would do.
High school is so
minuscule
to life. Yeah. Like, what are we actually talking about? Yvonne Orji actually said it in an interview on the Breakfast Club. She said, like, she got bullied so much that she was like, oh, I'm not going to be a loser and dumb. But she said, oh, books are going to be my best friend. She's like, I made a 4.2. She went to Georgetown. Like, she was like, I'm not. So she's like, and then her mom was like, because she was saying at a young age, you don't understand your parents when they say this, but they're like, honey, like in a couple of years, these people are going to be working for you. Like, I'm sorry, but if high school is the highlight of your life, baby,
that's a problem.
I have something bad to tell you.
That's a problem.
No, but really, and like, not looking on social media, and I've unfollowed a lot of people for many reasons, but it's nice to see people excel that I'm like, oh, that's what he ended up doing because he was just in the library all the time or whatever. And at that age, it's very important. Like, you make certain decisions at that age that really do define your life almost. Yeah. It doesn't, some things doesn't really matter, but like.
You have to decide what you care about and what you don't care about.
I mean, like Steve Jobs can't be caring about if he's you know what I mean? Like, come
what did
on,
Michelle Obama say? She was like, I would have never become first lady if I cared about what boy liked me in high school. Like, I could not have been worried about those things and, you know, got into Harvard Law.
Yeah,
like,
and then she ended. I think she ended with like, and I wouldn't be married to the president of the country.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think people, and I was just talking to my friend about this today, where it's really hard for when you're in high school to get that perspective. And like, even when I'm talking to like people in high school today, and I'm like, zoom out and understand that high school is this much of your life. It is 4 tiny years of your life. And then it's like, you have all this life to live, whether it's going great, whether it's going terrible, whether you feel like you literally want to end, zoom out and realize how tiny it is. Like, it will have little to no effect. Genuinely let it pass. Just let it pass.
But I think one of the reasons why is because look at how many of the most successful shows, this country is obsessed with high school.
It is.
High school is like, think back on like, why do we put so much emphasis on like prom? Even the freaking teachers put so much emphasis on like, that's weird. Why are you making these teenagers come together and then like, you know what I mean?
There's a whole conversation about the fact that there are not a bunch of hit shows that are about, you know, kids in college. It's always 18 and under and like in high school. And like, that's like, they make it seem it's your prime years.
I'm the audience of that. Like, I watch that too, but it's like, oh my God, that's so relatable. And like, that's so, I remember when you were that young, but we're so obsessed with high school for whatever reason, or youth. I should probably say that in this country. We're so youth obsessed. But here's the thing though, if I could come down to 16-year-old Mila and be the 27-year-old Mila and be like, girl, I'm future you. I promise you this doesn't matter. I would not listen to you, babes. I was so in it.
Same. Like, and I had people tell me this. I had people when I was in high school be like, Ruth, do this, do that, whatever. Try to give me advice. I was so arrogant. And it was, first of all, it didn't take me even being 2 years out of high school to be like, damn, they were right. Like, that's so real. Yeah. And luckily I did have some perspective, and I never saw high school as like the end all be all. I always saw it as just like, it's high school, just like middle school was middle school and elementary school is elementary school. Like, there's nothing special about it. There's nothing concrete about it. You're moving on just like you move through every phase of life. But I had people telling me like, do certain things now that are going to help you later on. And I just be like, no, like, I'm just living. Like, please, I'm vibing right now. Like, there's nothing I need to really be focused on. Like, I'm living in the moment. And now I'm like, even if I try to give myself that advice today, I know for a fact 16-year-old me was not hearing it. Yeah. Because you think you know everything at 16. Like, legitimately.
Girl, yeah. I would give my 16-year-old just a hug. I'm like, girl, you're going to go through some stuff. It's just, oof. And you're not going to
get really real for you, but.
And it's still getting real. Like, I still don't know what I'm doing. So on the topic of code switching, first, do you still do it? I mean, my answer is like a fat yes. Yeah. It's like crazy. Hell yeah. Still don't know that I am.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's absolutely necessary. You literally just have to know your audience. I'm like, we both are like, we love communication. We're communicators.
Yes.
And I think it's because we understand.
Read the room, babes.
Read the room. Know your audience. Like, come on. There's certain things I would say around you that I wouldn't even like. There's certain jokes I would make with you that I wouldn't necessarily make with your sister. I know how to read the room.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I know what would land on you, and I know what wouldn't land on her. Exactly. Yeah. And it's something that simple. So when people are like, oh, you code switch, like, be yourself. I am myself. I'm trying to make you comfortable. Like,
right.
It's not about me.
And also, I always say too, like, especially in the work environment, I'm like, please, let's be very clear. you are getting, and it sounds very like robotic, but you're getting a check. One of my mentors said this, you're getting a check for rented behavior.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense.
So in this like social media role, it's like, be yourself. Or what I was like, babes, you don't want John to be himself at the
you
office.
Absolutely don't. You don't. No,
I
you don't.
promise you, you don't.
Yeah.
And neither does he or his
you want
wife.
the John from the interview.
Yes,
you want him, and
it's rented behavior, right? He shouldn't be acting the way he does when he's just on his couch watching football. Yeah. That's not what it is.
Right.
And so don't get mad at me that I'm able to kind of like take the advantage of the situation. However I am, I'm able to thrive. It's just a skill that first gens have.
It is.
Sorry.
And it's because, I mean, we didn't want to learn this, but we were forced to communicate.
It was from trauma, babes. Yeah. Like sink or swim.
Half the time, actually sink or swim, because half the time we had to translate for our parents. Half the time it's like, I mean, there was a lot of people, and I'm not me, but y'all be safe. A lot of people who,
not y'all be safe.
You know, obviously English was their first language, and they can listen to Amharic, but like they didn't speak it, or let's just say their native language.
Yeah.
Whereas their parents, English is like their second, third, fourth language. So there's a barrier between parent and child even when it comes to language, and so it's like,
wow, yeah,
no shit, you have to code
That's
switch.
A good point.
Like it's not easy. Like, you know, I remember thinking with my friends, like, who just call up their moms and explain, like, you know, just like pop culture things that are happening. And in my head, I'm like, I legitimately wish I could, but I don't have the vocabulary in my native language. I used to, you know, we forget, but like I have an elementary vocabulary in my native language. So it is so difficult to have certain conversations in it. Whereas then I think about my parents, I'm like, they don't have the same vocabulary I do in English.
Right.
So now we're in this like gray area.
Limbo. Yeah.
And it's so difficult. And it's like,
it's frustrating.
Yeah. And so, but like, now we're in this gray area, but obviously when I was younger, it involved a lot of code switching. And I think it's so interesting that a lot of immigrant kids think that, and I've seen this so many times, they can kind of just like chat the way we're chatting right now or talk in like slang terms right in front of their parents and get one over on them.
I know. Yeah. I used to be able to do that. My mom caught on. My dad doesn't care. My mom definitely caught on. She's like, girl, I heard all that you're saying. And we were saying some wild stuff like me and my brother. And I'm like, she definitely heard that we did that last weekend. That's uncomfortable, but we're alive and well. So it's fine, I guess.
No. And with music too, we would use, oh my God, when we'd go to like Christmas, you know, like we'd all get in the car, whatever. I mean, we would play like we listened to crazy music growing up. Early 2000s kids. I love that for us. I love that for us. But like, we really weren't censored because our parents didn't know better. And like the music we would listen to was so insane. And I remember me and Madam put on like, let me not say us, she put on some crazy songs. Like, I mean, it was definitely like Drake, Lil Wayne, whatever.
Yeah,
and
but at that age?
Yeah, we were like maybe 9 and 10.
Yeah.
We were like babies, and we're all cranking in the car. It's me, all 5 of my cousins, a minivan. We're all cranking, going like, you know, Christmas. Yeah, we were kikiing. And then come to find out, my uncle later on was like talking to the parents, and he was like, what the hell are these kids listening to? Like, what is going on? And he like he sees us like once a year, you know, he doesn't know. And he was just so shook. And in my head, I'm like, he caught on? I'm like, what? We were so, as if we weren't blasting it in the car, because for some odd reason,
as if he wasn't there. Yeah,
we think that like, if we're speaking in slang terms and we're talking
or even
fast
if they hear
English,
it, they don't know how to understand it.
Exactly.
Which is so fucked. Like,
it is. So, it completely is. And
yeah.
I'm happy I've like grown out of that. And but I still see certain people doing it, who will like say certain things to me in front of my parents. We good over here. In front of your parents, you probably don't want to do that. And so, like, you know, I'm transparent with me and mine, but like, they'll say something in front of their parents, and I'm like, are you sure? They're like, he's not listening. Don't take him for an idiot. Like, he's listening. Like, now you're gonna get me mad.
Yeah, like, that's not fun.
It's not funny. Like, you know, and so they'll say certain things, or they'll speak really quickly, and they'll be like, he can't hear you. Yes, he can.
Yeah, and he
absolutely can.
You.
Yeah. It's that and it's because they were so used to doing it as kids. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think for me in that situation, where that stems from is because I definitely was guilty of that, and that doesn't make me feel good now looking back. I
think we all were at some point.
Yeah, it was that with code switching too. It's just I would have to explain everything to my parents, even kind of like what it would seem to the other party what was simple stuff.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, this is how the curriculum is going to be this year, whether it's like a syllabus, explain that to my parents, or like understanding why we need 5 different pieces of paper rather than 4 when we have to do that dreadful, run to the Staples
the
day before I need it because I don't know how to.
Every time.
I'm always like, my mom's
I'm actually so traumatized.
Why are you the way that you are? Staples is closing in an hour.
Yeah.
Like, why do you have to wait
the poster board?
I'm like scared next to her bedroom. Like, just like.
I'm so happy that was a universal experience. I thought I was a delinquent. Like, genuinely. Like, what's wrong with me?
Why did I wait that long?
Every time.
And looking back, it was just like, we were just doing the teacher shopping.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
At that point,
girl. Back to school shopping was ridiculous.
Like,
when I think about it.
Oh my God. Did we need 17,000
Did I need color pencils?
Tissue boxes? Like,
right. Tissue boxes.
Because Jimmy has allergies. I need to
I had to bring hand sanitizer.
Boxes. Like, it's crazy.
What's the county funding? Like, this is actually
And by the way, like, we were in a good county. Like, top rated county. Yeah. So I don't know what was going on. Anyways, so I think that's where it stemmed from, is that I would always have to like explain, or honestly, I would save my parents the trouble, either because they didn't have the time or I didn't want to put them in the situation. Honestly, it's crazy that at a young age we understood how to protect our parents. Like, we had to grow up so fast from a young age.
I know.
Which is like, it shows great qualities now, but it's kind of heartbreaking. But I would like sign off on my parents. They knew. I was signing off on people's report cards or whatever because I was just like, it's fine.
I had my dad's signature down by fifth grade. I had my own signature by fifth grade.
Can we talk about
my
that?
signature today is my signature that I made in fifth grade when I signed for my citizenship in the U.S. And my dad looked at me, he's like, you can't change it. And I was like, I won't. That's the same
crazy.
One. Same thing with I had my dad's signature down very early on. We practiced it together because I would sign stuff for him. Like, because I'm reading documents.
But you say that like it's normal.
It's not.
Like,
it's stressful as hell.
That's not what
Girl,
it's supposed to be.
It's like
our kids won't go through that.
But you don't know that it's not normal until you see.
You're in trauma. Babe.
Yeah. Actually, we were. Got it. Like, we're thinking all this stuff is
we're
normal.
In the trenches.
But you made it such a good point earlier, where you're like, our life revolves around our family, mainly our cousins. So obviously that was normal to me because my cousins were doing the same thing for their parents. We're all first gen. It didn't seem bizarre until you go to school and you see, somebody's mom handling everything for them. And you're like, huh? Like, what do you mean? Because I read every document. Or like somebody asked a question in class. I have all the answers to where we're going on the field trip, what time we're leaving, what's going on, because I read it and explained it to my family. Like, what do you mean?
Oh my God, yeah.
Like,
so then at that
I wasn't
point,
a clueless kid ever. I didn't have that luxury.
Because you didn't have the literally mental capacity to worry about grown woman shit. Grown ass shit. You know what I mean?
Which is, again, what I hate. This whole, like, discourse about kids growing up too fast. That's not their fault.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, there's a bunch of discourse about, like, and this happens a lot with kids of color. And I'm going to leave it there. Literally, whether it be black kids, whether it be immigrant kids, like, when I say black, I mean African-American children or children of immigrants, where there's this, like, idea that they're too grown, especially with the girls. And I'm like, well, part of it comes from the fact that they have to be. Like, they didn't choose this.
Dude,
as a kid who was labeled as too grown, and like,
is a luxury. Yeah,
we didn't have the luxury of being children, because like, if I was clueless and I was just, la-di-da, having fun playing on the playground, like, who was going to fill out the forms? Who was going to make sure things got done?
Yeah.
Like,
there's no room for error.
None. And it's like, our parents had great excuses. They were working to survive in a brand new country where they didn't know the language.
Right.
Plate is full, babes.
Just what it is.
The plate is full.
Plate is full is the another name for this podcast. Because it's literally like,
they have no more room. And also, we have the upper hand. English was our first language. Our comprehension skills are 10 times of theirs at our elementary age.
Yeah.
That's like just a real fact. So I didn't feel like, oh, damn, like, I'm so stressed having to do this. I felt like I better do this because I understand it better. It just makes more sense.
Right. Efficiency.
Yeah. It's just exactly, it's an efficiency thing. And I think they understood that.
Right.
Which is why they let us sign.
Yeah.
Like, waste no time, bro. Waste no time.
Yeah. No, that's a really, really good point. It's just like, it's one of those things where like, and our parents hearing this, it's like, we're obviously grateful for our childhoods and like wouldn't change anything, but it's one of those things where it is what it is. Like,
it literally,
what I would have loved to just be a kid and just figure, like, just focus on playing and like play with my siblings, and that would have been nice. But from a young age, I just understood that there's no room for that. Like,
there isn't. And the alternative would have been, okay, we would have been kids and we would have, gotten to, act as kids and live out a full blown childhood, but we would have been back in Addis Ababa. That's just the reality.
Right.
So pick your poison.
Right.
Like, so yeah, our parents made the decision to move. Like, and I keep trying to picture it from their point of view, where I'm like, if you put me in Sweden tomorrow,
I wouldn't
with children, and you forced me to learn the language,
take me out,
and how to get a work permit there, start working, XYZ, put my kids in school.
I'm not surviving.
Keeping up with their like everything about, like, they're becoming Swedish kids inherently, and I'm like, so confused because there's this huge disconnect. Like, babes, I'm not Swedish, so why are you saying you're Swedish?
It's like, not happening.
Yeah, and so I picture it that way now, and I'm like, it's so difficult, and I can't fathom it. I would never do it personally, and the fact that they did it is such a big deal that, I don't know, it's giving me such a brand new perspective. So I'm like, yeah, we dealt with all this, but we also got to grow up in a first world country.
Right.
First in our families to do so.
Yeah.
So it's either be kids back home or be adults here.
Right. Because they had no choice. Yeah. And I wouldn't
trade it.
I definitely would not trade it because it all works out. Yeah, absolutely. I think I said this, I maybe just said this to my mom. Maybe I dreamt it. Maybe I said it on the podcast, but I was telling Mare that it's a privilege to be able to, our parents work their asses off to get us to where we are today. Yeah. And they might not necessarily have achieved generational wealth because as immigrants know, and people who are not from immigrant parents, like if you see immigrants here, they've had to work their ass off, and if they're living comfortably, I promise you they're living like Justin Bieber at home.
Yo,
let's not forget about
it.
Let's not.
There's a lot of people who literally live, like who choose to live back home because if they can ball here, they can ball back home.
Which is even more of a sacrifice because when I would go visit, I'm like, you left this to
I say that
just for my education, like I better tighten up and make, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
actually. And you know what I'm talking about, like they're living like Justin Bieber.
Literally.
And by the way, over there isn't racism, there isn't gun violence, there isn't all the stuff that
they
happens
know
when
everything
you're a
about everything.
They're majority over there. So
they know how the money works. They know how the banks work. They know how the government works.
Their language,
like they know everything. So imagine going from an expert.
They choose to come here, which we're not trying to show this country, but
yeah,
like it's crazy when
it's
you actually
think about
it.
Insane.
It's an insane sacrifice. Yeah, so I wouldn't change anything at all. And it wasn't until in my 20s where I was like, oh no, like I'm the lucky one. I'm the one who has something special. The fact that like, you know, I would talk to some of my friends who like, I would invite them to our family gatherings because they had nowhere to go for their holidays. Like, we come in numbers. There's like 100 of us at Thanksgiving. At all times. And, like, you know what I mean? Or what, like all the stuff. So I wouldn't change anything for the world. It's just, I know that we just grew up really, really fast.
Yeah.
But, the thing I want to point out is that like our parents came here to give us a chance at like a better life. And although I wouldn't necessarily, we lived comfortably, but I wouldn't say that we achieve generational wealth, but at the very least, I think they showed us their worth ethic, and now we have a chance to pass the torch 100%. And create generational wealth. Does that make sense?
Yes, and it wasn't. I feel like when you're moving to a new country, like a absolutely foreign country where you don't know that many people, and you have to go make connections, XYZ. The goal isn't generational wealth. The goal is survival. It is the next generation's goal to, you know, get generational wealth. So that's on us. That was never on our parents. For those who got it on the first try, like kudos to you. Yeah. But I also want to ask, did you go to college here? Because there's difference. If you came here well into your 40s with kids, it's a completely different ball game from those who came here and went to university here. So in the case of our parents, which is, you know, the former, I just feel like that the goal wasn't generational wealth. It never had to be. It's about surviving. Putting down some roots, like setting a great foundation, and then the rest is on us. And like, we really do have access to everything we need. And then some, because we're not from here.
Yeah. My mom said like, babes, you have, and you know how my mom is, you have no excuse.
Yeah, none.
Like, it's succeed or bust, because at this point, babes, I've been successful and I had nothing. Yeah. And had 3 kids on my back. Yeah. And you have like 2 degrees, no financial, all this stuff, and I've laid it up for you, literally. So basically, she said you have to be an idiot to like shit.
Oh, your mom, we really get into it. Like, I'll be like talking about happiness and like I just really want to feel content, and I'm like, I'm like, I value my happiness. I said that to her like, and she's like, around grad, and she was like in my apartment, and she looked at me, and I kid you not, everyone's doing their own thing. She sat me down, and she was like, stand up. Like, seriously. She was looking at me in disgust. She was like, you need to be about your money. Hustler. Yeah. And I was like, but that's just like an exhausting life. Because that's all she knows. And honestly, that must be so disheartening to hear, like, from her point of view. Because imagine, like, you did all this to get this generation here. 1 generation in, and I'm talking about happiness. Like, bitch, you don't get up. You don't get up. Like, we're not there yet.
Take this torch and run with it.
We're not there yet. Like, talking about stuff, I think this is the finishing lap. I think
I'm good here.
I think I'm good right here. Like, it makes no sense. I get where she's coming from.
No, it's a really humbling experience, and we'll talk about this on another episode, but just to end this episode from code switching, I also see that like from like part of code switching as well, I find, is like talking to my parents about their struggles and what they're doing, and then weirdly trying to relate, and it just doesn't match.
Girl, please.
You know what I mean? So any of my issues or my downfalls or whatever you call it, or my inconveniences probably, I just could never vocalize, because they'd be like, are you effing serious right now? You have no reason to cry right now.
It would literally be an insult. It would be an insult if we brought it up.
And by the way, if I was them, I would also see it that way.
Yeah, because they grew up in a war zone.
Exactly.
But I bet I constantly have to remind them, I'm like, listen, like, it's a big deal to me. And like, my parents were very big believers that, like, I'm a crier. Everybody who really knows me knows I cry about everything. It's just a thing I do. It's not that deep.
Yeah.
But my parents, who rarely see me cry, are just like, that's so weird. And in my household, it's like, crying is
emotions
insane.
don't work in our culture.
They're like, what is there to cry about? Just fix your problem.
What is those? Why is water coming out of your eyes?
Yeah, and I'm like, I cry over everything. It's not that big of a deal. But my dad is very big on, like, what is there to cry about? You see a problem, you fix it.
Right.
But it's because all of them, and I mean all of our parents, no matter what generation your parents are from, in one generation or another, they all grew up in wartime, which is an insane thing. Like, we forget that sometimes. I'm like, whether it's right before the war, right after, during the war, they all grew up in wartime, no matter what part of Ethiopia they were in. And actually, in many parts of the world.
Yeah.
So it's like, people, I mean, y'all were really fighting for your lives. So of course, it looks like nothing.
In the trenches. Yeah.
It looks like nothing to you.
I always tell my parents, I was like, babes, you were drowning in 60 feet of water. I was drowning in 30. Yeah. We are both still drowning. Like, it's still real. Yeah. Yeah.
They think
we're still learning that, because sometimes I'll be complaining about stuff. They're like, you're complaining that. Like, I travel a lot for work. So when my mom calls me just to make sure I made it to city, I'm like, I just mentioned, like, man, I'm just so tired. Like, I've been in 4 cities in a week. And there'll just be like a pause. She's like, I get some rest, but you just ordered food from the hotel. You're going to eat and just take a shower and go to bed, like, girl. And then it really does humble you in the sense.
Yeah, it does.
But then I'm also learning a bad skill of invalidating my emotion, just being like, or the comparison thing. I was like, well, no one died today. And like, I'm good. So, girl, you're fine. But those are still real things
they're
that are
very
going
real.
on.
They're very real.
But the thing is, when my mom was actually going through working 16-hour days or whatever, I've never seen my mom complain about none of our
parents.
When I know, okay, this is when she's going to break. And it just doesn't happen.
Ever. Because it's not this is the thing, I think something people need to understand. That's not an option. It's not an option.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm going to be honest for you. The fact that we see it as an option is like a testament to their success.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Talk about it.
So it's like, if we're like, if I'm over here, you know, like ready to throw the towel in, it's because I feel safe enough. It's because I think that I can throw the towel in, everything's gonna be okay. They didn't have that option. So for all we know, they could have been like, you know, like one thing away from ending it all. But like, they didn't have that option. It's literally. But I was going to say, we have to wrap it up anyways, but I was going to say, we're talking our ass off. That like, I don't know if I caught that part, but our wanting to throw the towel in, us feeling comfortable giving up is a testament to their success, because it means that we have that option, which already they succeeded. That's it.
We don't know that
past
life
the baton. Yeah. They didn't even have that option. It wasn't even like up for discussion. You know, it's literally like they were drowning in the middle of the ocean. There was no lifesaver. We have a lifesaver. Yeah. Which is them. Yeah. You succeeded, babe. So
them, man.
Yeah, that's it.
I literally find every episode at the end, it's just another reminder of like, damn, we're lucky. This is just paying homage to our parents.
So lucky.
Yeah, we really are really lucky. Yeah,
the perspective alone, like the perspective we have, the
information,
is so rich.
It's crazy. Insane. Yeah. It's insane. It really is. Especially the stories my mom tells me. I'm just like, she'll tell me an experience of what she's going through, of what I'm going through. And I'm like, oh, let me just get my money up, like whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Your mom is like, one advice her mom's gonna always give you is get your fucking money. Like, that's really it.
Yeah, like
get your money up.
Niggas,
nothing else. Oh my God, God forbid. She does not care at all.
Get your money. Yeah. She's definitely like pro women. Like, get it together. Even though she has about my husband every single day. I'm also single. So there's, what husband are you talking about? Yeah. Okay. We could talk about this forever. So I probably should end this episode. Yeah. So as always, guys, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, leave us a rating. Also comment down below any. Also, I'm impressed. I didn't say comment down below.
I know one time.
Comment down below any topics that you guys want to talk about. I also would tag Ruth in the description, so make sure you follow her as well. Thank you so much for coming on,
of
love.
Course, thank you for having me on. I know.
She's so intelligent and just knows how to communicate.
I literally bounce off you, Mila.
Crazy. It's crazy. Let's not do this thing right now.
It's like, girl. I just don't know how to take compliment.
Here we go. Literally, because we never got any. the trauma. But anyways, guys, thanks again for supporting and listening. And lastly, as I always say, call your parents, call your mom, call your dad. Answer those phone calls. They're not here for a long time, so make sure you show them love. And I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.